Hi, AP Calc. Here we go. Week 3, Friday problems. Looking at problem number 5, and I'm looking at part A. They're asking you to write the equation of the tangent line at the graph of f at the point where x equals 0. So they tell you that f prime of 0 is equal to -3. And if you plug in at f of 0 is 2. So y minus 2 is equal to -3 times x minus 0. You could leave it just like that, slope-intercept, or point-slope form, okay? Part B, so 5B is asking, is there sufficient information to determine whether or not the graph of f has a point of inflection, okay? And the answer to that is no. The only thing we know is that f double prime is equal to 0. We don't know anything before or after as far as a sign change. So no sign change of f double prime of x is known. And if you said, well, we don't know about a sign change, you had to indicate that we were looking at the second derivative, and that was it. Okay, for part C, it says that you're given that g of 0 is equal to 4, and you need to write the equation of the tangent line at the point where x equals 0. So we need g prime of x. G prime of x, we needed to go and get that is or they gave us, sorry, they gave you g prime of x. So g prime of x, e to the -2x times 3f of x plus 2 times f prime of x, which is great. So then you end up getting that g prime of 0 in this case is equal to 0. So you end up getting a horizontal line at y equals 4. Okay, now for part D, I was really picky. For part D, they say that show that g double prime is equal to this. Okay, so you have to start with g prime of x is equal to e to the -2x times 3f of x plus 2 times f prime of x. Okay, and you have to show. When they say show, that does not mean that there was divine intervention, right? You're like, of course, we've got some help on the other side, and then you say that g double prime of x is equal to e to the -2x times -6f of x minus f prime of x plus 2f double prime of x. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So what I need you to do, if you did not get full credit, I need you to actually go and do product rule, okay? Treating this guy as your first function, treating this as your second function. Okay, so you're going to do that, rework that. So the derivative of the second times the first times the first times the derivative of the second. Okay, so I need to see some serious product rule with a little bit of algebra, not divine intervention. Okay. All right, and then it does ask, does it have a local maximum at 0? So then I should see, well, what does g prime of 0 actually equal? I mean, they gave you what it was supposed to equal, so if you did not get your algebra correct, you could simply put it in. But you need to use that second derivative test. So whatever that g double prime is, okay, by the second derivative test, and then you're going to tell me, is there a max or a min or whatever? It says local maximum, okay? So we need to know g prime of 0, which we already know that g prime of 0 is 0 from part C, and then you have g double prime of 0, okay? You can go from there. Okay, for problem 6, this one was one that was a pretty low scoring section, okay? So 6A asks, is f continuous at x equals 3. Okay, this is the one I was talking about. It says continuous. As soon as you see that, in order to answer that question, yes or no, you need to go through the 3 steps of what is the definition of continuity. So number 1, f of 3. What is f of 3? Is it defined? 2, what is the limit as x approaches 3 from the left? Is that equal to the limit as x approaches 3 from the right? Okay, which means this whole thing, that the limit as x approaches 3 of that function is in fact defined. And then the third thing, you need to show that the limit of, as x approaches 3 of f of x is equal to f of 3. So those are the 3. If those 3 are missing, or you just say, well, yeah, their y values are equal, not the definition of continuity. Okay, so we need to work through that. Okay, the next one I thought was really interesting, that there were several of people who got it correct. Okay, the whole point behind this is you getting better at this. So for those of you who got the 4/3, I was like, really? Because I think I've had a handful of kids get this over the last couple of years, and all of a sudden we've got like geniuses. So please make sure that you're doing this with integrity. Okay, I'm not questioning, I'm just really concerned, making sure that we're all on the same page and you're getting better every day. So with this, what we want to do is, it says the average value. Well, the average value of that would have been 1/5 times the integral of f of x from 0 to 5. Okay, so this is what is the average value. Okay, so that 1/5, the fact that it came in into the end, nobody had it anywhere near where it was supposed to be. So this is a representation of what the average value is. What we have to do is we have to go and figure out what that value is. So I'm going to do 1/5 times, I can't do 0 to 5 because that's broken up into 2 parts. So I have the integral from 0 to 3 of the square root of x, square root x minus 1, or sorry, x plus 1 dx, okay, plus the integral from 3 to 5 of the other part, which is 5 minus x, okay, dx. So that's what I should see. Then I'm going to take that 1/5, and now I'm going to go calculate this. So this is x plus 1 to the 1/2. So I'm going to do exactly, I'm going to get the antiderivative. I'm going to add 1 to it. If I add 1/2 to another 1/2, or sorry, add 1 to it, I'm going to get 3/2. But I have to balance that out. So that's 2/3 x plus 1 to the 3/2 evaluated from 0 to 3. I saw very few people with this work here. So either you're doing photo math or some crazy stuff where you're like, yes, again, divide intervention. So I need to see that antiderivative of 5x minus 1/2 x squared evaluated from 3 to 5. Okay, so a lot of people were missing that step, and so I was not awarding credit. Okay, and then lastly on 6C, it gives you that function where you have g of x is equal to, and they're saying k root x plus 1 for anything that is between 0 and including 0 and 3. Otherwise, it's mx plus 2 for x that is bigger than 3 but less than or equal to 5. Okay, and they're telling you that it is differentiable. So k and m are constants. If g is differentiable, okay, again, very confused as to the number of people that were like, of course I know how to do this. These in years past were like some of the tougher questions. G is differentiable, which means continuous and differentiable. So differentiability implies that it must be continuous. If it's continuous, then when I go to plug in 3 for the top function, so if I plug in 6 root 4, because I put 3 plus 1 is 4, is equal to m times 3 plus 2, I get 2k is equal to 3m plus 2. So that's an equation. So that's if it's continuous. Okay, that's what I have, is that the y values from the left and the y values from the right should be equal. So that's, again, left-hand limit is equal to the right-hand limit. Okay, and then the second thing is that it's differentiable. So then that means the derivatives of both sides from the left and the right, those derivatives should be equal. Well, what does that look like? If I have a derivative of this, okay, the derivative of this guy right here, k is a constant. So that's literally like k times x plus 1 to the 1/2 has, and when I take that derivative, I'm going to get 1 or k over 2 square root x plus 1, okay, has to be equal to the derivative of the other side, which is just going to be m, okay? So if I plug in at x equals 3, I get k over 4 equals m, and then I've got two equations, two unknowns. I can now solve for both m and k. But again, there was a lot of like just little things where it was not very clear to me that you understood what you were doing. It was just a bunch of equations putting down. So be very explicit. You need to explain, okay, differentiability, that means continuous and differentiable. If they're continuous, that means these y values are equal. If it's differentiable, derivatives from the right have to equal derivatives from the left. Here's the derivative from the left. Here's the derivative from the right. They're going to set them equal at x equals 3. And then we get to the algebra part, right? So I can write down that k is equal to 4m, and I can go, okay, 2k equals 3m plus 2, so 2 times 4m is equal to 3m plus 2. I should have seen something to this effect. 8m equals 3m plus 2. So I end up with 5m equals 2, so m equals 2/5. And if m equals 2/5, then k is going to be 8/5. But there was a lot of sketchy work, or I should say what I like to call divine intervention. Of course, this is totally like a normal sequence of events. I would agree with that maybe if you were in April, but since this is only week 3, I am not expecting 9s on this. Please understand that. Okay, for those of you who with a lower score, please take note of what needs to be shown for all the points. Okay, all right, have a great day.